If you go through a list of Hall of Fame baseball players, you'll see the legends of the game. Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., etc., etc., etc. You'll also probably see a bunch of people with funny names you've never heard of. Like really, I do nothing in my free time but consume baseball content, but gun to my head, I could not tell you anything about High Pockets Kelly or Chick Hafey. And for good reason too. They were fine but not great players that just happened to get inducted by their buddies in the Veterans Committee in the 60s and 70s, where Frankie Frisch basically just inducted all his notable teammates from the 20s and 30s Giants. So let's make the worst possible 26-man roster you can out of Hall of Famers, not including managers. Boy, if only I had access to some baseball simulation software that could let us see how well the team would do today. Oh, yeah, that'll do. I'm gonna vaporize everyone on the Pirates out of existence and replace them with these historical players for our team. For each player, I'll be importing their ratings for what seems like an average season in their prime, so not their absolute peak season, but sort of near it. From there, we'll sim the 2021 season with our new Pirates team and see how they do. I'll also try to include a fun fact or quick anecdote about each player in our starting lineup because, as we all know, early baseball can be kinda crazy. Let's start our team behind the dish, where we'll find Rick Farrell, a catcher for the Browns, Red Sox, and Senators from 1929 to 1947. In 18 seasons, he compiled 27.2 F4 with a career 98 WRC+, making him one of the few Hall of Famers who was a below-average hitter for their career. Farrell did win 8 Gold Gloves though, and if you can trust defensive metrics from 90 years ago, they probably weren't undeserved. Farrell may have also been the first free agent, a status he was granted by Kennesaw Mountain Landis, after it was discovered the Tigers and Reds had colluded to keep him in the minors. Moving to first, we have the aforementioned High Pockets Kelly, who put up 29 F4 mostly for the Giants and Reds from 1915 to 1932. Kelly at his peak was a 140 WRC+ hitter, but outside of that was much more good than great. Kelly was 6'4", thus the High Pockets, and also played a season of pro basketball. Truly, High Pockets Kelly walked so Michael Jordan could run. Our second baseman is Bill Mazeroski, who manned the Keystone for the Pirates from 1956 to 1972. He's mostly in the Hall for delivering one of the most iconic hits in baseball history, his walk-off homer against the Yankees in Game 7 of the 1960 World Series. Maz is also viewed as the best defensive second baseman in history, and metrics tend to back that up, but he also never put up a season better than average at the plate, and had a career 82 WRC+, making him one of the worst hitters in the Hall of Fame, so he'll be bringing up the rear of our order. At third, we have Freddie Lindstrom, another one of the players inducted by Frankie Frisch and his crew. Lindstrom has 30 career F4 and 2 really great seasons, but outside of these he was pretty mediocre. Freddie is also the youngest player ever in a postseason game, starting at third in the 1924 World Series at just 18 years old. Shortstop is the first position without a clear-cut candidate, but I went with Rabbit Moranville, who has a great name, but was not a very good hitter with a career 83 WRC+. Rabbit was a notorious jokester, and while player managing the Cubs in 1925, he mocked a newsboy by saying, "Extra, extra, read all about it, Rabbit Moranville fired." Moranville was actually fired the next day. Rabbit had a slit glove and a ton of longevity, playing 23 seasons from 1912 to 1935, mostly for the Braves and Pirates, so he and Maz will bring good defense but no bad up the middle of our infield. Our left fielder is Chick Hafey, who was a great hitter for the Cardinals and Reds from 1924 to 1937, with a career 132 WRC+, and a peak of 159 in 1927. On the other hand though, he didn't play as long as most other Hall of Famers, and seemed to be an absolute butcher in the field, which suppressed his career value numbers. Hafey suffered a bad beaning early in his career that forced him to wear glasses, making him one of 2 vision-impaired Hall of Famers, the other being Reggie Jackson. He also had the first hit in the first All-Star game. In center, I went with Hugh Duffy, a 19th century player that played for the White Stockings, and the Boston Red Sox, the Boston Bean Eaters, among other teams. Duffy represented short kings everywhere, clocking in at just 5'7" and 150 pounds. He had a 440 average in 1894, good for a 169 WRC+, but his career numbers average out to a 118 WRC+, with below average defense in center. Finally, in right, we'll have our most modern player, 2019 induction Harold Baines. Baines was a DH most of his 22-year career from 1980 to 2001, putting up a career 119 WRC+. Baines was reportedly shocked when he got the call saying he was elected by the Veterans Committee and thought it might be a prank, but honestly, he seems like a good dude, so I can't rag on him too much. We need a bench too, so our backup catcher will be Ray Schalk, our infielders will be Jim Bottomley and Phil Rizzuto, and our outfielders will be Hack Wilson and Ross Youngs. Our starting staff will be made up of Jesse Haynes, Rube Markard, Catfish Hunter, Jack Morris, and Red Ruffing. Our bullpen will just be starters since every reliever in the Hall is already really good, so we'll use Lefty Gomez, Chief Bender, Burley Grimes, Bob Lemon, Waite Hoyt, Epa Rixey, Jack Chesbro, and Herb Pennock. Sort of paradoxically, our bench and bullpen is going to be a lot better than our starters for the first run of this sim, since I want to see how the actual worst team of Hall of Famers would do. Alright, let's start the season. I turn off injuries so we get to keep the same team all season. We start spring training and check the auto-generated preseason predictions, where the game is projecting our team for just 75 wins, which seems really low considering we have top 10 players at most positions, but I'm confident we can prove the haters wrong. On day 1 of spring training, our starting center fielder Hugh Duffy instantly starts a benches clearing brawl and gets suspended for the first 4 games of the regular season. Spoiler alert, things would not get much better for the rest of the year. As is tradition, I manually play opening day where we win a 7-6 nail-biter against Tampa behind 3 hits from Chick Hafey. Unfortunately, we then lose 5 games straight when all our starting pitchers fall apart in their starts. By the end of April, our Pirates are 11-21 and last in the division. The middle of our order, Baines, Lindstrom, and Hafey, are all hitting well, but the rest of our lineup is pretty awful. Our starters have a combined ERA over 5. Our bullpen is lights out, but that was to be expected, and it doesn't really matter when we can't get a lead. Fast forward a month and we're up to 25-34, still 10 games out of a wildcard spot, but an above 500 month. Our closer Epa Rixey is rocking a 0 ERA, and Lindstrom and Hafey are still hitting well, but the bottom of the order is still not producing at all, and High Pockets Kelly is playing like the worst first baseman in the league. By the time we reach the All-Star break, we're in abysmal 38-57, and while Freddie Lindstrom and Chick Hafey are All-Stars, every other hitter is disappointing. Jack Morris is leading the league in losses though, so I guess that's something. At this point I've seen enough, so I make some substitutions to the lineup and rotation to see if we can make a second half push. Hack Wilson, Phil Rizzuto, Jim Bottomley, and Ray Schulk, who all have better ratings than current starters, take over in the lineup. And Epa Rixey, Waite Hoyt, Charles Bender, and Lefty Gomez, who have all been decent to good out of the pen, take over for our lackluster starters. The next month and a half are above 500, with us 62-77 by the end of August, but our start was too terrible. Our Hall of Famers are eliminated from playoff contention before the second week in September, and we finished 76-86, 14 games out of a wildcard spot and pretty spot on with our season prediction. The offense was respectable, with the 6th most runs in the league, and Freddie Lindstrom had a 5.7 WAR season. Our other best players were Chick Hafey, who was 3rd in the league with 43 homers, but only had 3.5 WAR since his defense was so bad, and Phil Rizzuto, who had 3.4 WAR and just 300 plate appearances because his defense was so good. The starting pitching, though, had a 4.98 combined ERA, the worst in the National League, which probably wasn't helped by our team's awful defense. Charles Bender, Epa Rixey, and Catfish Hunter were our standout pitchers, while Bob Lemon, Jack Morris, and Rube Marquard had ERAs over 5. Marquard and Herb Pennock had negative WAR, mostly due to giving up a ton of home runs in a lot of innings. Our run differential was only negative 19, good for a 79-83 Pythagorean record, so we were probably a little bit unlucky as well. Or was it more than bad luck? I looked at our team's chemistry, and it was the worst I had ever seen for a team in Out of the Park. All 26 of our players were unhappy and disruptive influences, which I have never seen before. Bill Mazeroski, bless his heart, was trying to hold everyone together, but the team didn't have a true captain, and apparently everyone was just an asshole to each other. I guess the Hall of Famers just had too much ego and couldn't play nice with each other. In case you were curious about the rest of the league, the Indians swept the Brewers in the World Series, the Padres won 107 games, and Juan Soto was the best player in the league. I'm not satisfied with this result though. I'm afraid I screwed the team over by setting intentionally bad lineups since I thought the team would be way better than they ended up being. So let's start over and try a season where the Out of the Park AI gets to manage the team, setting all the daily lineups and making trades if necessary. Our Pirates 2.0 also start the season 1-5, and with this new and revamped lineup, we're still 26-33 by the end of May, which is only 1 game better than our intentionally bad team. The AI replaced Bill Mazeroski with minor leaguer Steven Alamaze, who is pretty much the exact same player as Maz. It's also hitting negative WAR catcher Ray Schulk 2nd, which seems suboptimal. Overall, our offense is way worse than expected, but the pitching is much better than the first sim. Fast forward to the All-Star break though, and we're up to 50-45, going 24-12 in the last month and a half, just a game out of a wildcard spot. At the trade deadline, the AI traded away most of our starters in the bullpen for actual major league relievers, which worked to varying degrees. Our Pirates are in the thick of it all season, but with a few games left, they're eliminated from playoff contention, finishing with an 84-78 record, 2 games out of the second wildcard spot and 5 games out of the division lead, which is respectable but probably not on the level of 26 Hall of Famers. Our Pythagorean record was 86-76, which would have been good enough to force a one-game playoff with the Braves, so our bad bullpen did come back to bite us. Our hitting by runs scored was actually worse than the first sim, but our team average, OPS, and WAR were all better. Phil Rizzuto was our best player in the sim, followed by Freddie Lindstrom and Ross Youngs. Our starters were great, finishing the season with a 3.31 combined ERA, second in the National League, but our bullpen was terrible, which pretty much canceled out all our value from pitching. Overall, this version of the team is better, but probably would not have been good enough to make a deep playoff run. In the rest of the league, Freddie Freeman was the best player in the league, and the Dodgers won the World Series by reverse sweeping the White Sox. So what have these sims shown us? Well, there are a lot of not great players in the Hall of Fame that were either big compilers or got voted in by their buddies for no reason really. If we take an average season from these players and neutralize their stats to the modern day, they'd pretty much make an average team in today's MLB, which frankly is hilarious. A team of players not in the Hall of Fame would definitely be better than this, so maybe we should not keep clamoring for a return to small hall philosophy and let guys like Scott Rowland and Billy Wagner in if we already have High Pockets Kelly. That's just my 2 cents at least. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more out of the park content, let me know since these hypothetical simulations are fun to do. As always, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the content, leave a like and sub to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.